work with them, even if it means we could lose thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds. And we have turned down people like that because of those very reasons. If we happen to know about somebody using strange machinations or illegal or just corrupt techniques, I'm afraid that no matter what the loss to us, we won't work with them. We would rather wait, and if necessary, never get those grander opportunities. Because I think a lot of people who are really involved with the TG concept, whatever it might be, the one thing they all feel is that we are incredibly honest. And we have to keep that, because it really does matter to a lot of people to have at least one example of a group of people who refuse over and over again to play those games, because it's those games that have messed everyone up.
Surely that is what interests people like Burnell and Bowie and so on, that you do stand very much removed from the hurly-burly and the crassness that is the commercial world. And because you're outside, that immediately places you in a very elite position, really. Well, it does, because everybody else is desperate to get inside, aren't they? I mean, everybody is furiously desperate to get themselves signed up and get a large advance and get more gear.
Yeah, well, that's their problem, as Monty always says. I mean, if they want to go for the Coronation Street lifestyle, I'm afraid they're sort of, they have to take the consequences. We can't do anything except say there are other alternatives. And it does get very frustrating, and it does get very depressing, which is probably why I often dwell on more morose subjects. But at the same time, I'm not prepared to change. Not just for money or something. I mean, hell, I've not had money yet, and I've managed to do a lot, and so have the rest of us. And that's why I say, if we suddenly got money too, watch out, world, because we'd really pump out the stuff then.
You actually have some kind of vocals that are mixed so far down that you almost can't hear them. So, can you explicate, what are you actually saying? Is it intentional that they are mixed down so much that we can't hear them?
Which one do you mean?
There's a speech. It's not vocals is possibly an incorrect term. There's a speech towards the end of the first.
Oh yes, where I say that you have to be as efficient as a government campaign. And this has nothing to do with art. I've forgotten the exact words. What is it? If you want to do anything at all, it should be as well worked out as a government coup. It has nothing to do with art, it's a campaign. That's about the gist of it.
Right, now, you can't hear that, so the immediate question
Well, you
is...
can.
Yeah, but you got to work bloody hard to try...
Well, that's good. I think people should work hard at things.
What, to even... But the point surely is that if you wished that piece of information to be relayed to your audience to make it easy to hear, is surely a more effective way than making it almost sub-audible within the context of the music.
No. We wouldn't agree, because we're very interested in the idea of subliminals and propaganda. Propaganda is not done necessarily in the most obvious way, and it is still part of the overall sound. And if it all suddenly stopped dead and that came through loud, it would sound... It is, in fact, verbally very crass, embarrassingly crass. But it was a point that I wanted to make once, but not to the detriment of the overall record. So it was buried at the level I thought it was important.
Now, there's another thing. You say the record was recorded in one go, but there's actually a point where the music almost seems to stop, and there are these huge gasping breaths of somebody going... Now, was that recorded live?
That's off a cassette. You know, we use cassette tapes when we're playing live or anywhere of sounds, and that's just a tape of somebody breathing heavily that came through at that point.
Right.
And it wasn't added afterwards, that's how it came out of the PA.
So in terms of the mixing, tell me a little bit about it. You've got
There's one bit, in fact, where when we were mixing it, we made a mistake. We transferred a bit of guitar just before the last section of side 2. I can't remember the technical reason why, onto another bit of tape, and we forgot all about it. And then I suddenly remembered it and said to Chris, hey, what about that bit where I did the guitar solo? And he goes, oh yes, and we found it, but somehow we'd snipped off about 3 seconds. So there's actually 3 seconds missing there, and you can hear the edit.
Right, and what about the very end of the record? I mean, there's instructions at the end.
That was on a cassette that we played through at the time.
Where does that come from?
It comes from a Canadian biofeedback machine. It's a small object you put in the palm of your hand with 2 fingers on it which make the contact. And then as you relax, it makes a little note, and the note goes deeper as you relax. And then you can turn the note, tune it up again, and go down again, so you get deeper and deeper and deeper. And they give you a cassette with this gadget, plays the tones to you and explains at the end that man says.
Refreshed. And 5. Open your eyes now. Take a deep breath. Feeling very good and alert.
Have you got plans for a new album, then?
Not really.
Do you have plans for new albums? I mean, is that a meaningful question?
We have... Well, we get to a point every so often where we feel we have to make another move.
But that particular move is not part of some preconceived strategy.
No, it's to do with the situation as it develops.
So you would not say, you couldn't even say at this stage, the album After Heathen Earth is going to be spectacularly different.
No. I think they'll probably start to settle down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably why they'll stop.
Stop?
Well, they'll have to if it just settles understand.
Oh, I'm with you.
Mm.
That's the question I asked yesterday and I wanted to talk to you about today, and that is, do you see yourself as progressing, as moving forward? And if you do, are there avenues yet to be explored?
That's not quite how you asked me the question yesterday.
Why? Had you worked out that it's
I'd worked out an answer specific. I even wrote it down and more or less memorised it and changed it.
Okay.
You crafty bastard.
Okay, I'll ask.
I've forgotten why, but I started off with saying you must remember that we're not actually primarily concerned with music itself. So somewhere, as the word music wasn't there, it's oh well.
Right.
Ask me again.
I'll ask
and I'll
you-
start straight off the cuff, just like a record.
No, I'll ask you and you can start just like a record that's already been made.
I knew I should never have written it down. I thought, this isn't like you and it never works.
Right, the question that I was originally asked yesterday was, do you see Throbbing Gristle as exploring variations on a musical theme, or as moving forward and progressing musically?
No, that's nice. That fits, but now I can't remember what I was going to say. Yes, well, it's still what I thought I was going to answer to begin with is it needs a rider, that's all, that question. That's all that I realised, because we really aren't primarily concerned with music or musical technique or the future of music or the history of music. We happen at the moment to be using organised recorded sound as a medium for our propaganda. And that means that we get referred to and, regarded, analysed within the context of music. But that could, in real terms, be very misleading for people, because we've used other media, and we still do. We're still making films and videos, we're still writing articles and doing photographs and talking, etc. And there are other priorities far above whether or not we progress musically for us, which are the ideas as we refine them coming into the sound or the music in what we consider to be an effective way, and I think they are. It so happens that if you listen to all the recorded output, there is a complete spectrum or rainbow of sound. I mean, there's no style, although you could say, if you're quite used to us, that there are certain effects techniques that we use that most people don't use, that make you begin to think that might be TG. Overall, we'll use any style that suits what we want to say.
How important then is music within the total business of what TG are doing?
We're not interested in music at all. I mean, hardly any of us listen to records ever.
So what would you, under those circumstances, the obvious question is, what do you see yourselves as doing?
Talking to people. That sounds very sort of easy and slick to say, but that's really what it's about. Talking to people, demonstrating a lifestyle or a way of living, proving within a very corrupt system that you can exist outside it, as you said, and be the person everyone else wants to try and get to. That's not that we want people bowing down at our door, but we would like people to both admit the achievements that we've made and also start making them for themselves.
So you're much more concerned with saying, look, the system, if I understand it properly, what you're saying is Throbbing Gristle as a group of people who play musical instruments is only part of a manifestation of a notion that says you can operate with integrity and value and worthfulness outside of the gigantic infrastructure which happens to be the society as most of us understand it.
That is a perfect explanation, Bruce.
Thank you very much.
I don't need to say anything else. Yes, that is true. That's really what it's all about. And records are just a byproduct of that.
But they happen to be a very good example of it, because there is a tremendous amount of commercial corruption within the record industry.
They work great as a metaphor and as an example in real terms as well. And they also have turned out to be a very good way of actually financing the continuation of our attitude.